I think it's shaping up to be okay. I'm sure. Yeah. No, it's taking me in certain directions that I didn't expect. And then there's some pieces that just sort of invented themselves the past couple of weeks. So I was like, oh. That's exciting. Writing. Exactly. So I think it'll be fun. My trip was bad. I couldn't even think about one. Your trip was bad? It was, I got first by every possible travel delay or cancellation and Spanish morning. That's terrible. Were the races in this morning? I wasn't racing. I was just in New York. I was visiting my best friends. Yeah.
Well, I already know I'm going.
Are you going to Burbank?
No, which means that it's going to be trash.
Oh, God.
So that's all. I love Burbank. But Burbank get me to Durham, North Carolina.
Yeah, anywhere west of like Colorado or anywhere. It's always more while in Burbank, depending if you're going, across the city. That's why I'm always like, I think it's words. Like I'm doing the map, I'm getting to LAX. I'm going to take a flyer. Dealing with me here, I'm like, it's more than $75. If I take a car to the highway, that's like 30 or $40 all of that. And then to do that all the way home.
Although sometimes I it's easier to take the highway because getting on that LAX, whatever that LAX is, so right? I mean, you're just like elbowing the people and then just have to wait, just stand in the bus.
No, I always take the flyway.
Hi, in the house. You all know probably used to the same. I've been emailing over there. I bought some books. Because you're a book. Since I was trying to get the books to go talk to you guys. I know. Sure.
How are you? It's good to see you. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I mean, it looked like that experience where you're supposed to go this year. I bought the ticket, yeah. So you
it's not like
I'm very tired.
So I didn't even freak
I feel more limber. I feel adjusted. I feel more loose. Yeah. So we'll see. Like the goal is to turn into a all about at the time frame.
But I know that
So that's not great. That's also
Okay. So listen, you all signed in over there. Thank you. How are you? Yeah, I'm spring break. We are gonna usher you out to spring break. Nourishing, global, yes, I remember the first one. I don't want to support Diana. I know, got all psychedelics.
my screensaver.
How are you?
I'm big time.
Oh, okay. That's how I feel too. Yeah.
You would like this better than the volleyball?
You know, it's maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's like the wind is. It's. I don't know. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Should we put more light on the back?
I don't know.
All right, listen.
I just decided.
All right, let's show the road. What do you think? You were born ready.
To be honest, I feel like I need to lose this. I'm driving them crazy. Like, I don't
It's not just driving you crazy. What would you do? What would you like to do? I mean, that'd be fine.
like it's not too good.
You may tell me, oh, this is sexy, right? This side, this side, both
This is so great. Do you use Tidal or do you use Spotify? What do you use?
I mean, I forgot about Tidal because I know Spotify is having like paying for voice or whatever, so you can get that off.
This was how I did it. It was so easy.
Because have a lot of playlist.
Yeah, that I didn't want to
Am I
buy.
gonna read?
I know. Yep.
But it's all over there. Pretty much anything with like Spotify.
Yeah, I think I and yeah, I can send you a link to what I used. It's very chill. It took like 10 minutes. Yeah, because that was where I was like cleaning. I was like, but it's like Spotify and podcast. So yeah. But I'm glad that my brain
Because I don't think that those things would have to be. Alright, this is good. Now, start to get it together.
that was like a good place for it to
It was a
stop, too.
wonderful place for it to start. Are you using the mic, Diana?
There's no mic.
There's no mic.
There what? Yes, there is. There's a mic right here.
You can if you want. You don't have to.
Well, you know, I don't know. Hearing this, would you, if you don't want it to,
There's no mic.
that might be too loud for this. For the recording. All right. Sometimes for disability access, but it feels like, and everyone knows I can project. And if you can project, it can make it happen. It'll be quiet. Welcome, everybody. Woo! Oh my goodness gracious. It's so nice to be here with all of you right at the threshold of spring break. I mean, we wanted to make sure to send you off fortified with a lot of good writing, literary, cultural goodness. So, good evening and welcome. My name is Gabrielle Seville, and I am the director of the MFA program in creative writing here at the California Institute of the Arts. All right, you all know the question I'm going to ask you. Whose land are we on? I know you hear it all the time, but it does help to be reminded, does it not? Although really, anybody, whose land are we on? It is my honor. Thank you. We had a person in the room who was able to offer it. It was my honor to acknowledge and remind us that the CalArts main campus, where we are right now, sits on the unceded ancestral lands of the Chagua Vayatam, the people of Chagua-Yanga, whose present-day descendants are citizens of the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians. So when we say whose land are we on the land of the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians. So next time, which will be April 9th at the next Writing Now event, I'm gonna ask it again and you all will just be so ready for me. They have been here for millennia and will forever call this place home. Through meaningful partnership and collaboration, CalArts is committed to lifting up their stories, culture, and community. So this evening on this land, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the first of 3 Writing Now readings happening this spring. Readings that our MFA Creative Writing Program sponsors to highlight dynamic contemporary voices. The now in this Writing Now is especially urgent as histories and practices of diverse people, art, and writing are now being contested, attacked, and erased. In this now, we navigate the mounting forces of authoritarianism with the pleasures of solidarity. We balance the welcome arrival of spring with the horrifying presence of war. In this now, it is all the more vital for us to gather, to be together and connect as an artistic community, and to hear from writers committed to fearless truth-telling, vital imagination, and solidarity with writers from around the world. Tonight's Writing Now writer, Diana Arterian, is indeed one such writer. Born and raised in Arizona, Diana Arterian is a poet, critic, translator, and editor who earned her PhD in literature and creative writing at the University of Southern California and her MFA in poetry from where? The California Institute of the Arts. We love our alums. We love our alums. A poetry editor at Noemi Press, Diana's creative work has been recognized with fellowships from the Banff Center, Malay Arts, Yaddo, and more. Her poetry, nonfiction, criticism, co-translations, and conversations have also been featured by the Academy of American Poets, BOM, Brooklyn Rail, Harvard Review, Los Angeles Review of Books, NPR, the New York Times Book Review, and more. Her debut collection, Playing Monster Sesh, came out from 1913 Press in 2017 and received a starred review in Publishers Weekly. Her most recent works are Agrippina the Younger, which is right over there on the table, which came out last year from Northwestern University Press, and Smoke Drifts, Selected Poems, I promise I won't change the page, that came out also last year from World Poetry Books. This particular book, Smoke Drifts, is her edited co-translations of the contemporary Afghan poet Nadia Anjuman. I've known Diana for almost 10 years, I think. It's been a minute since we've met. And I've always been impressed by what I think of as your kind of participation in literary community and your commitment to connecting and to sort of supporting, holding, exchanging with other voices, other writers, both kind of in Los Angeles, a local community, nationwide, and then also globally. I also really know Diana through sort of our joint attendance and participation in the ALTA conferences, which is the American Literary Translators Association, and the struggle and pleasure of bringing very long desired translation projects out into the world. I was especially excited to kick off this series with Diana's work, especially bringing in translation, because last semester, I had the pleasure of teaching translated bodies. Like, snap if you had a part of that. All right, we have some translated bodies in the house. And so it feels vital for us, especially in this now, to recognize the significance of translation as a means to be in solidarity, be in communication, be in conversation with writers from all around the world. But it is a complicated and challenging project, translation. I know we've got some other faculty translators here in the house who can speak to it. Give it up, Brian Evanson, I see you. I know, Katarina, you've done some translation as well. So, I don't know, Muriel, have you translated?
No,
Not yet. Not yet, but soon. In any event, I'm especially pleased then at this reading for us to have an opportunity to hear Diana read both from her own kind of original poetry and also from her co-translations. And we will have the pleasure of hearing some of the original Persian from Marina Omar, who is the other co-translator of Nadia Anjuman's Smoke Drifts. So it's really my pleasure to welcome to our very first Writing Now event, Diana Arterian. Thank you so
much. Can everybody hear me okay? There's like some really good vibey music happening. Yeah. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Gabrielle, and Kay for helping set everything up, and to all of you for being here. Both of these projects actually kind of have their zygotes from my MFA. at CalArts, and like I learned about Anjuman when I was here, and I made a chapbook in a chapbook class, and like really got started on that. And then I'll say more about Agrippina the Younger in a bit. But I also learned about her while I was here. And the Anjuman work took 15 years, and the Agrippina work took 10. So it feels really special to kind of have it be full circle, where I'm able to talk about the work with you all. So I'm going to just read a bit of something, and then show a video, and then kind of jump into the Anjuman work, and then I'll read a bit about Agrippina. For much of written history, Afghanistan is known for its beautiful mountains and its poetry. And like anywhere, there are warlords and squabbles, most of the planet. Life is cheap. These things are true for centuries. In 1978, the Soviets invade. The United States, as usual, sees an opportunity. It exploits Afghanistan as a theater for the Cold War, transforming it from a largely peaceful country to, as journalist Anand Gopal says, quote, one of the most war-ravaged nations on earth. In 1980, a girl named Nadia is born in the city of Herat, a place known for its poets. By the age of 6, Nadia writes her first poem. When she's 9, Soviet occupation of her country ends. When she's 15, the Taliban are in power, banning girls from schools. In 1996, Nadia is 16. She begins attending the Golden Needle School, a space where women learn needlepoint. In reality, it is a clandestine place for education run by a sympathetic literature professor at the university. In their bags, beneath fabric and thread, the women carry books. Their children play in the yard outside to warn them of any approaching morality police. If they're caught, they could be hanged. Nadia attends the Golden Needle School for 6 years until the Taliban fall. In 2002, Nadia enrolls in the University of Herat to study Persian literature and begins publishing her poetry. A man, a fellow student, proposes to her, and she rebuffs him. She does this a few times until she feels she can't anymore. He and his family hate that she writes poetry. She takes up the pen name Nadia Anjuman, Anjuman meaning community. In 2005, Gol-e-Dudi, Flower of Smoke, is published. People have been craving work like Anjuman's in Afghanistan, Iran, France, Pakistan, and elsewhere. She wins awards, flies to Iran, and meets other poets. Another collection, Yeksabad Delroy, A Basket of Doubt, is going to be published soon. Nadia gives birth to a son. This is where I stop. This is where I don't want this to be a story anymore, where it can't be a myth, a misty tale, where all the archetypes that have popped into your head need to pop right back out. Where I struggle to continue to talk about Nadia Anjuman. I know what came next, and it devastates me every time. To trace the arc of this incredible artist as it shot forward, knowing what was waiting for her. I want to linger over her potential and give it space to breathe. But that is not the only reason I hesitate. I worry over the flattening tropes people will project onto Anjuman, will reduce her to a cliche. The brilliant young writer, the foreigner, the victim, the dead woman. Anjuman died at the hands of her husband, a fate I am quick to remind that is hardly consigned to women of her country or religion. As the third leading cause of death after accidents and heart disease worldwide, domestic violence is a depressingly common way women die everywhere. Women hatred is a scourge the world over. In the US, homicide is the leading cause of death by injury. This is not to make false equivalences. I'm not pretending American girls are women and women are contending with the same cruelties the Taliban is exacting on women in Afghanistan. But I want to forestall any sense that the US, or what it represents, is special, different, or above such brutality. Anjuman's murder doesn't make her unique. Depressingly, it's quite the opposite. The circumstances of her death link her to innumerable women across space and time. What makes Anjuman remarkable is her poetry, her ferocity, and unfailing desire to continue to participate in this ancient art. How she enshrines her humanity with the poetic line. The Afghan-German writer Arya Aber writes in her moving introduction to this volume that Anjuman, quote, wrote fiercely with a formal deftness that bears witness to a profound respect for the canon and the ambition to reinvent tradition. At the time I began this work, I hadn't questioned my right to translate these poems. I was young and unaware of some of the anti-colonial thinking about translation that would later make clear to me the problematic implications of my project. After all, I was an Anglo-Westerner with no knowledge of Persian translating the work of a contemporary Afghan poet who had died because of domestic violence. While holding no explicit ties to the region by heritage, as an American, I am undeniably connected to Afghanistan. Indeed, I'm connected to any region the United States has invaded and where it has wreaked havoc in the name of liberty and democracy. Afghanistan in particular was the subject to what Shanaz Khan dubs colonial feminism, a practice in which governmental powers invoke the plights of women for militaristic propaganda, though ultimately these same women make up the majority of casualties, or what the same military would call collateral damage. As one Afghan woman said, the Americans did not bring us any rights, they just came, fought, killed, and left. Anjuman's murder, for many, was particularly heinous. Her husband beat her to death after the US involvement in Afghanistan, which supposedly aimed to, quote, liberate Afghan women, had been dubbed a success by the US itself. If Anjuman were alive, my co-translator, Marina Omar, would be her contemporary. When someone recently asked Marina at a reading of this work how she endured the terrible restrictions of her childhood in Kabul, she answered with devastating bluntness, I was suicidal. Marina now lives in the United States. In Arya Aber's introduction, she writes, quote, while Anjuman's poems cannot be extricated from the ruins of her circumstances, for they were born out of them, they also transcend them. Having survived, these poems serve as an anthem for the struggle for liberation that Afghan women have fought for centuries. In the 2 decades since her death, Anjuman's words have hardly lost their potency. For Persian readers all over the world, her words are a beacon. Gole Dudi has sold over 3,000 copies. The Taliban, again in power, exacts its brutal laws against women and girls, outlawing not only their education after 6th grade, but also singing, speaking, and reading in public. 2 Afghan sisters, calling themselves the Last Torch, fight this tightening noose how they can. They post videos of themselves singing, donning burqas to hide their identities. Quote, before the Taliban came to power, we had never written a single poem, one sister tells BBC News. This is what the Taliban did to us. In one video, they sing a poem by Anjuman. And I apologize about the quality of this. It's like ripped from Twitter. I'm realizing I'm showing how much of a Luddite I am. Okay. And this is that poem in my co-translation with Marina Omar. In vain. I don't want to open my mouth. What can I sing? I'm despised these days. So what if I sing or not? What can I say of honey when it tastes like poison on my tongue? I curse the brutal fist that smashed my mouth. There is no one in the world I can rely on. So what if I cry, I laugh, I die, I linger? Alone in this corner, with only defeat and regret, I was born in vain. My tongue is sealed shut. I know it is spring, my heart, a time of celebration, but I'm a clipped wing. I can't fly. Though I have been silent for some time, I remember the song. I pull the words from my heart in an endless whisper. Celebrate that day when I will break from this miserable cage and emerge, drunkenly singing. I'm not that weak willow tree that trembles in the wind. I'm an Afghan girl, and so I howl. And Marina very kindly made some recordings that I will play periodically in between so you can hear the original Persian, which is really stunning. Even as somebody who can't read it, the language hasn't changed for 1,000 years. And it's so clear that she was a very dedicated student to that lineage. So that first poem is a ghazal, and that's it's like her favorite form, and it's an ancient Persian form that involves repetition. But then she also had other poems that broke those forms, which was largely possible because of other Persian writing poets like Ahmad Shamlu and Farah Forkzad. And this is one of those poems, How? How should a wandering writer find her way home? Through which precise alleys? Where is the peaceful corner where one, exhausted by the seconds of life, can sleep? Leashed to the horse of feverish dreams, life is a dreadful gallop, charging through the feast of the spirit. You close your eyes and break free from pain's grip, wending your way to the valley of imagination. 1 or 2 moments under the spell of death, and then tired feet, bloody lips, dry mouth. You find yourself in a rocky place. Before your eyes, only fumes, fire, and mirage. A broken sound in your throat. Water, water. Suddenly, a trembling, something strange and throbbing. Swimming in a bed of sweat. You open your eyes and sober up. Bent. I want to guide my poems upright, but the reach of the city's ceilings is low and arched. There isn't even a crack to push through. So, prudently, my poems have fallen asleep, hunched over. There is no vigilant hand to break through these domes. No one will ever see the limits of their thoughts. Here, you live bent and you die bent. A story. When they glimpsed my silvery fortune, they stole from me, jealously. They kidnapped my horse, shamelessly using it to rush at me. Ugh, curse that gang of cheats and frauds who mocked my sincerity. They slammed every door in my face, set daggers on every window. When I opened an eye, they hammered in white-hot nails. When I bled, they turned into wolves and drank. Vein by vein, they cut at my life, thousands of blades in my one body. Why shackle my pen? They never saw it stray. Why clip the budding smile from the small garden of my lips? Why such hatred? Perhaps they were a nest of scorpions. After ransacking my senses, they slept, satisfied. The skies grew fitful with the fumes of my torment. Thunder boomed and the clouds roared. Their chests burst with lightning. The pillars of the earth shook, and the clan woke up in a panic. They darted around, then froze, stunned. Their 4 walls collapsed. My eyes rained tears of resolve. At my hope's dying breath, the clouds gave it life. This is I, she who speaks. If only those thieves could see me now. I realize I need to look for this one, I'm sorry. This one's another ghazal. It's called My Garden, and I'm gonna let you all hear Marina's reading of the original version.
باغ من دوست دارم معنی امید را باور کنم. راهم ببندم و فکر رهی دیگر کنم. ریشه های زندگی را آبیاری لازم است. بعد از این آینده را نوشاب در ساغر کنم. چشمه مهتاب را در سایه ها جاری کنم. سربا و سبزه ها را سبز درخت کنم. باغ من در روشنی دشت گوهرها می شود. گل گلی خورشید را در آب منشر کنم. روزگار از کارم افسانه‌ها خواهد نوشت. روزگارم سینه تاریخ را فرصت کند. انجمن گر در سرودنها مرا یاری کند، شعرناب خویش را آذین حق دفتر کند.
And so you can kind of hear that repetition. And we weren't able to have that fall at the end of the line, but rather had to put it in the beginning. And if you know the form, or even if you don't, often the poet will name themselves in the penultimate or the final stanza. And Anjuman is engaging in wordplay because her name means community or group. My garden. I will believe in the meaning of hope. I will shut the door on grief and find another way. The roots of life need sustenance, so I will raise my glass to the future. I will let moonlight spring flow through shadows. I will grow cypress trees even in the stars. If I invite orange lilies to this affair, I will make gems envy my radiant garden. In time, my work will be legendary. I will fill the chest of history with gold. If Anjuman helps me write these verses, I will gild every book with pure poetry. This next one's called Poison.
زهرابین. آن شب در محفل خصوصی گشتم‌ها یک بحث داغ تلخ دیده ادامه یافت. موضوع زرق زهر و اندام‌های علم. در انتخاب سمت نام نمی‌گرفت و نمی‌رسید. ناگاه از آن یک دم بود زشت‌تر از اصل نسل خویش، چون تیغ برگشاد زبان گفت اینچنین: شب در گذشتن است و مجالی درنگ نیست. تا چشم‌های دعنا بخوابند خیزید و نیشگاه بجویید. میراث مانده بر من یک شیشه از واحد چندین هزار ساله جدم ایثار بر من.
Poison. That night, the scorpions gathered in secret. A fierce argument went on for hours, the subject injecting poison into bodies of knowledge. They couldn't reach a verdict on which poison to use. Suddenly, in the group, the ugliest of them all loosed his tongue like a sword and said, "The night is passing. There's no time to waste. While our prey have their eyes closed, rise and find a point to sting. I've inherited an ancient jar of deadly venom from my ancestors. Now I am the generous one who will pass it on." I want to read Flower Smoke, but I need to find it. Apologies. And then there's one more that I really love, especially because Eid just passed, Ramadan. And it's been a very challenging one for Muslims all over the world. But I think it'll be a beautiful poem to end for her. And then I'll read just a couple of the Agrippina. So this is Flower Smoke.
گل دیگی من از احساس تهی بودن لبریزم لبریز و این فراوانی قحطی است که گهگاه مرا در تب آتش مزرعه جانم میجوشاند و از این جوشش بی آب عجیب چهره کاغذی دفتر شعرم ناگه جان میگیرد، گل میاندازد. گل بیمانند است ولی افسوس تنش را رگه‌هایی از دود رنگ و بو میبخشد.
Flower smoke. I am filled with emptiness, filled. With this abundance of want, the field of my being often burns, simmering with fiery fever. From this strange seething, my notebook suddenly comes alive, the papery features, lush. It is a rare flower, yet the body gathers its smell and color from these wisps of smoke. Bedroom. I saw a man in the gutter, sleeping with nothing. He was covered with an old rag, the rest of him bare on the wet ground. He had no shoes on his feet or clothing on his body, exposed and unaware of the people gathered around him. They mocked the man, laughing. One person said he was crazy, another a drunk. One said he was an idiot, another ill, another dead, another lovesick. All who passed the man stood above him, stupefied. Suddenly, he raised his head. Seeing the crowd, he asked, "What is this about? Why are you all so shocked? Have you seen an ogre?" They told him, "We're baffled by your state. Foolish man, you're sleeping on the side of the road. If you had any sense, you wouldn't lie like this. Perhaps some Layla has wrecked your reason." He said, "Don't worry about this lunatic. You think this shabby man is an animal of the wilderness? You ask about my clothes, but I'm wearing silk, invisible to sinful eyes. The devout don't want cushions. I'm unafraid of the roads, thorns, and shrubs. If you had eyes in your head, you would see my pillows. This bed of mine is finer than woven velvet. I sat down, wide-eyed, looking at the flowers, and I saw the pattern of a prayer rug. I feel like the light has really dramatically
Would you like some
changed.
more light on the
But
subject?
I mean, I'm happy, whatever feels, I'm also down to be spooky, whatever you guys
A little
want.
light wouldn't be the worst thing, especially since this is on the screen.
Oh yeah, so people can see.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna read 3 poems from this,
That sounds great.
and then happy to, I guess no signal is kind of stressful.
Yeah.
Very quickly to just give very brief background.
Light is good.
Oh, it looks okay.
It's okay.
Are
you all okay with this? I feel like we're gonna follow that.
Okay.
You know, my vision is weak.
Do you have enough light to read or not?
Sorry, I know these. Yeah. At this point, basically by heart. But just very quick background. Agrippina was real. She was an ancient Roman empress, and she lived at a time and place in which women were legally second-class citizens. At the same time, she was somebody who felt that she deserved power, and incredibly was able to realize her dream of running the Roman Empire. Using men as puppets to do it. And so she and did it very well. But she's essentially largely erased from history. She's largely known by the men to whom she was related or married to. So like Caligula was her brother, Nero was her son. She came from this noble family. So she used her nobility, she used her male progeny to be able to actually get to that place. And this was the first poem I wrote that ended up becoming the book. And it references a fact that I much later found out was not true at all. But I found it out while I was a student here. And I could not get it out of my head. So this is the first poem. Agrippina the Younger. Nero had her cut down the middle to see the womb that formed him. And as he peered in the cleft, that exposed organ began to pedal outward, growing and deepening to an enormous vagina, until he looked in and saw only darkness. So he burned prisoners in his garden for light and shut her up behind a large carving. Her remnants quietly broke off, moving into Nero, Piso, Vindex, Galba. So there were hauntings and blood and exile and suicide. Nero shucked sea urchins, plucked songs on his lyre, and she continued to grow until she held all of Rome, which burned and was rebuilt, while she tessellated, fanned, and Agrippina smiled with her mouth of bloody eye teeth. The Rhine, 200 million BCE onward. Vast plates shifted, littler ones, with constant sounds and heat terrible. Then there was a crack, and so a river, draining new mountains. It courses in my mind through the ice age, moving while low settles. The melt raises waters, river meandering, reworks its ice age braid plane. Watch the humans from above, like small matchsticks, mine it for peat, salt, pull its salmon, ride it laden with stuffs. Watch as they claim swaths, build crossings, develop thickly along its shores, wage wars. These dramas of land have happened everywhere. Eventually, she will be born here. That is the only reason I care at all. And then I also have these kind of prose poems. This will be the last one I read. The Palatine Hill. I walk the Palatine Hill for some hours, the sun beginning to heat, then move to a bench under a large umbrella pine, brown, dull needles snapping. I try to see what Agrippina saw, smell the needles, hear beetles or crickets sounding like rock carving into rock or into reeds, wood. The trees, perhaps different tree types, the birds maybe, but the path's the same, the stones, the hotness. A woman close by carries a long, thin banner of wilted fabric. Walking backward, she calls information to those who follow. Agrippina the Younger became the Empress of Rome after tricking her uncle into marrying her and adopting her son. She murdered her uncle later. You can't make it up. And I smile for how strange that a handful of men defined this woman's life narrative, and it continues even as the buildings she moved through have begun to crumble back to the earth. Thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe lights for questions?
I think lights for questions. Okay. Wow. And do we have, in fact, any questions?
I'll also say, you don't have to ask me questions about these, like getting a PhD. Ooh, girl.
I know. We remember we
I know,
have
like,
to navigate it in the room.
it's okay. It's okay.
It's a whole situation. Wait. There's something.
There's like
Is
a
there
little
like
light.
like a little thing?
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you. I didn't see that.
You know.
But like also just like any logistical questions, like I'm also I edited Muriel's book. Like what one of her books. So not only one. Muriel has done so many amazing things since then. But I've had my thumbs in lots of pies. So it's like if there's any, it doesn't have to be about the work. If there are other burning questions that you really want to ask. Yes. Thank you.
Hi. Could you speak to working as a translator, particularly working alongside another translator, and if your experience with this specific project in the world of translation is indicative of kind of like working in translation, or if it was different?
I really wanted to translate Anjuman. I very quickly, in general, translation, the stakes are so high, unless it's a text that's translated a lot. This is her first work in English. It wasn't that long. It was maybe a couple of years after she had died. And I worked with like a family friend from Iran for a little bit, just to kind of get enough so that I could try to see if it was doable. And then I found Marina through this like Persian network. She's Afghan, but like it was like through Iranians and Afghans that I found her. And like very quickly kind of got shoved into the deep end of how ethically very, very, very complicated it was what I was doing. Largely because I would just talk to people about it, and the response was really disturbing, where they wouldn't know anything about her work and they'd be like, oh my gosh, you have to lock that down. Like it was this commodity, and I was so horrified. I didn't see a lot of role models for what I was trying to do, which was do this with a really explicit ethics. Because largely the history of this kind of they wouldn't call it a co-translation. It would be like some white dude who didn't know anything about the culture or language working with somebody who did, and then totally erasing that person, and maybe not even really paying attention to the information they're giving, and like just like vibing. So I got a grant to pay Marina. Like we did a few poems so that I could apply for grants. I got a grant. I paid her. Her name is on everything. She's as involved as she wants to be. And that has been. I mean, I know that also exists in other, like now that I'm deeper in the translation world, that's something that not necessarily the grant part, but like Marina's also not a literary person. So it's not like she's not a poet or a writer. So it felt like she was really providing me with a service that I wanted to pay her for. If only because it didn't, like I'm able to benefit in some way that she just can't or won't. So now I am working on another co-translation project who's with somebody who is a literary translator, not from poetry, but from prose. And like we apply for grants together. So like it feels a little more like we're yoked together, like out in the fields, like doing the project. But I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to hear more about it.
Yeah, no, it's a journey. Translation is amazing, but it is a journey. It is never like, unless somebody's like, translate this novel. We are the publisher. We will pay you enough so that you don't have to do anything else for 2 years. And then like, yeah, then it'll get done. But like, otherwise you're kind of chipping away at it and maybe getting a grant, but probably not. And, trying to just, it's a labor of love is the short version.
But wait, just to follow up on that, how would you characterize your relationship with Marina? Would you say that you are friends? Are you
we're
colleagues? Or where, I'm just curious.
We're friends now, but not that we weren't friends, but it was just like it was very like professional. We didn't use Google Docs. This is like, I think Google Docs existed, but like sort of. And it was like, we were just emailing documents back and forth. I also hadn't taken a translation class. So like, I didn't know a lot of just like the basics of like a trot where somebody's explaining what a word is and they'll put slashes of all the potential word, like that kind of stuff I just didn't know. And neither did Marina. So it was really soupy, but in a good way. Like we were really in it together. And then of course, also on top of that, like I was doing a ton of research about Persian literature and poetry and trying to really kind of invest in it that way. But now we are friends, and that like we had just like an intimacy inevitably talking about the poems and what Anjuman was trying to convey. But amazingly, we had never met or even spoken on the phone. And then we got to do a reading at LitQuake in the Bay, and the Center for the Art of Translation flew Marina out, and I got to meet her for the first time, which was like so amazing. Yeah. So, because she lives in Charlottesville, so it's like a place that I'm not necessarily like going through. Like if I go across the country, I go to New York usually. Like I'm not necessarily going other places. It's far. It's expensive to get out there. So it was really cool that they flew her out and we got to hang out.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's other questions.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I think I'm genuinely not to continue asking about translation, but I know you really know.
No, I'm happy to answer any question.
I guess to me, I was really kind of interested in it too, where it's like, and with Marina now with like this new person you're working with, just because I feel like it's a field I'm so interested in.
That's great.
And
Translation curious. That's what we call it.
I just got past me by character.
Oh, it's another journey.
Anyway, no. I think for me, my kind of question is like, just like, I guess it's almost in some ways more logistics.
Sure, happy, yeah.
Like,
Nitty gritty.
And you mentioned like trot is part of what.
Right.
I think like, so what did like Marina specifically like do?
Right.
Like, what was your role? Like,
Yeah.
I guess if that, I don't know if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And it's similar to what I'm doing now. So I'm working with a woman named Marguerite Urdukanian, and we're translating a 20th century Armenian poet named Silva Kapatikian. And like working with Marguerite is super different because she's also like a linguist. Like she's like, let me explain this thing about the Armenian language, which isn't necessarily what Marina was doing. Marguerite, it's like a long lost cousin or something. Like and I get to see her all the time because she lives in New York. But with Marina, it's like, but similar with Marguerite, it's like I get literal translations. Like this is what this line says literally. And then my job, based on all of what I'm absorbing about Persian literature and like the tropes that have existed for millennia, and also my capacities as a poet, rather, I'm like bringing the poetry. So, and then I would like take a stab at it and then send it to Marina, and she'd be like, no, like this is, or like, no, that you captured this. I think the thing about translation is that it largely is an extended process of close reading. Because I've also had people, there's this really amazing woman who I did a reading with, and she was like showing me a poem. She was like, I think that this is actually what this poem means. She wrote this, and I think that that's what it is. And I'm like, I'm like, please tell me mistakes. Like, I want to fix it for the next one. And I was like, I think that actually, like when she's talking about the moth going to the flame and that being God, I think that's like, I'm like, my close reading of the poem is a little different. They could both be possible. And talking to her about it, she's like, no, I think you're right. So like, you're trying to not only unlock the like language, like bringing the language across, but conveying the meaning, which is hard. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but logistically, it's like going back and forth, literally emailing documents over and over and over, and then me kind of being like, this feels like the final one, how does it seem? But there are so many problems that I've found since where I'm like, oh my God. But I think that that's kind of inevitable. What was your question?
I was curious, this seems like a long process for you.
Yeah.
And in the introduction that you read, the word depressing came up a couple of times. Obviously, it's a deeply troubling story, and it's very heavy. And I'm curious, like, how did you take care of yourself as you were doing this work? Because, it seems long and challenging.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And I think it's such an important one. I mean, I feel like I was really growing up as a writer 15 years is, I'm not 80. So like, that was like, I feel like I was learning a lot about the ethics of creating after coming out of my MFA, having my thesis, like showing my thesis to family members. It was like a really dark project, and like seeing how people responded to that, seeing how people responded to this, and kind of, I think one of the things that's really comforting to me is seeing how the kind of, like when I was getting my MFA, the vibe was like, just keep going. Like, even if you feel like you're running off a cliff, just keep going. Like, even if it's like there's this like terror or intensity that feel like everything in your body is like, don't. And like, we lost people. Like, it just, I'm not saying because of the work, but like there were so few moments like your question about like, how do you care for yourself was not part of the conversation generally. And it's interesting because in this book, the Agrippina book, like there's a poem that a few people have asked me about, and it's like on her wedding night. It's a poem describing her wedding night. She's 13, which is common age, and her husband is like 50. And like I was reading a lot about practices, and it would involve like a sexual encounter at the end of the night. And I was like starting to write that, and I felt everything in my body be like, absolutely not. And so the end of the poem is like, she turns her face toward or away. You decide. I don't want to imagine anymore. And I feel like that took a really long time for me to get to. So in terms of like as an artist, in terms of Anjuman, I mean, it's still really hard to talk about, I read some of this at an event that I did, and it's like, and then played the video, and I was like, I don't have to really take a minute before I can read this poem. But I also think that that's really important that I still have those, like it's still potent, because the reality of her death is still potent. But I think in general, maybe the short answer is just to really heed what your body or spirit or mind or whatever is like telling you, if it's telling you to stop or slow down. And it took me a long time to hear or pay attention to that. But I feel like I'm there at this point. Yeah.
Can I just ask a follow-up?
Please ask a follow-up. Yeah. What was that?
Did you learn to slow down after your MFA?
I'll be real. During my PhD, I was doing so many things. I like started presses. I was doing all my classes. I was running a reading series. I was doing a volunteer thing where I was teaching undergraduates creative writing on one night a week. I was like doing this and this and this and this and this. And people would be like, do you even sleep? And I'm like, I need 7 hours a night. Like I do sleep, but I was working all the time. And I think it's really interesting that no one was ever like, are you okay? Like you're doing a lot. And not that it's like on them, but I had this like moment where I was like, oh, society is like, good job. This is like kind of a fucked up behavior that society like pats you on your back. And then my mom had a massive stroke and almost died. And I was doing caretaking. And then I had to leave, go back to school. Like I was in kind of dealing with way bigger stuff. And then someone who's like not unkind, like asked for some time from me. And I said yes, and then was so devastated on the other side of it that I was like, I have to quit everything. And like on the way to my therapist's office was like counting the things, and it was like 7 big things that I was doing. So it was really only when I got like sucker punched by life where I was like, oh, this is like, I'm going to wear myself down to a nub and no one is going to stop me. And so it's as an educator, I often have moments in class where if I feel like everybody's really fried, I'm like, what nice thing did you do for yourself today? And people are like, "Bleh." And I'm like, did you hit the snooze button? Did you have a cookie or like walk or do something? I'm like, I see somebody has a nice drink. That's nice. Like what, like, and I'm like, those gifts are so important. And then I have this whole spiel where it's like, your boss, your teacher, capitalism has no interest in you being anything other than a robot. Like you have to be able to care for yourself because no one is going to do it for you. And I remember doing that in a class, and there's a really cool program where I used to teach where like retirees could attend for free. So there's this woman in her 60s, and she was in the back, and she was just like, and I was like, oh, did you want to say something? She was like, I just never heard. I didn't say that. And I was like, well, but, and I tell them too, I'm like, this is hard earned, guys. Like it's like not from me being, I don't know, wise or something. It's like shit happened and I had to figure it out. Yeah.
A couple of questions. So the easy one, have I expand a little bit on your discovery of this amazing Afghan poet, and just more about how did you even start the translation work?
Yes. Very good question. Oh.
Could you repeat the question?
Oh yeah, so the question, sorry for the people zooming in. The question was how did I learn about Anjuman and how kind of like the beginnings of the process. So as I said, I started here. There was a person in one of my poetry classes, or no, just a class. There were only 2 poets in my cohort, me being one of them. And he didn't have warm, fuzzy feelings about poetry. And at one point in a class, I was like, I mean, why does poetry even matter? And I was so shocked because I just like did not know how to respond to that. And I think I would be fine now, but I was so stunned. In part because like during my undergraduate, like I had met poets who had been tortured for their poetry and survived. You know, like how poetry is, we are shapeshifters. We are able to transmit information and knowledge and history in a way that is really flexible and can be devious in the best way. And people who want to exploit power don't like that. And so I was in this chapbook class, and so I wanted to make a chapbook about poets who had been incarcerated or harmed or killed because of their work, basically to be like, fuck you to that guy. Because I was so mad. And so, you know, to your point, like I just I make in response. And then, so I was doing that, but then, and I came across Anjuman, and it was like the Western media outlets had really messed up her, like, I lost in translation, I don't know, or if it was like filling this narrative where it was like poet killed for verse or whatever. And it's like, her death is so much more quotidian, which is horrible. But like this sense of like, oh, see, women can't even write, like whatever, like all this really messed up these ideas in Western journalism. But there were kind of websites online about her and some kind of literal translations of her poems. And I was like, these are really interesting, like seem kind of amazing, but the translations were not really poetic. And then there was a publisher based in Sweden called the Iranian Books Foundation, and they had a complete works. And I wanted to make a chapbook about her. Like, basically, I read every single thing I could to like write about her life. And I was like, oh, I'll work with my family friend from Iran and we'll translate maybe like 2 together or something, or 3 to include. And he just picked up I was like, okay, so we're going to do that. And he just picked up the book and he started reading and immediately burst into tears. And he was like, oh my God, like very, very, he was like, and he wasn't like a crier, you know? And so I was like, oh, I'm in the presence of like a really formidable poet. And I also am like, more like English readers should know about her. Because the reason that her story went beyond the boundaries of Afghanistan was because she was a huge deal there, and in the region. So, and I truly, and I say this candidly, I really hope this is just the first translation. Like, I hope that more people who like really have deep knowledge do it. Yeah, and then Jen Hoffer was a professor here at the time who was a translator. And so I asked Jen, like, hey, how can I find somebody? And she like tapped me into this network of Persian readers and speakers. And it was just like this whole network lit up and people were like emailing me, blah, 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 blah. And then they connected with me with Marina, who was getting her PhD at the time in international relations at UVA. We began in earnest when I was in my PhD. So we were like both getting our PhDs, like working late night on these poems and, you know, yeah. So we would also, you know, commiserate about doctoral stuff. Oh my God. Oh, a journey. The question was about rights. How did I get the rights? I really need to work on a nutshell version of this. I'm going to try my best. So the Swedish-based publisher that I mentioned, it seemed like they had the rights. At the time, Afghanistan was not a signatory to the Berne Convention. The Berne Convention, among other things, says like, if you're a signatory, our copyrights we like honor each other's copyrights. So I was like, okay, Afghanistan didn't sign that. Who technically would own her rights? And I think devastatingly, it would have been her husband. And so I was like but Sweden is a signatory. I also got in real deep on legal shit because I was just like trying to figure. And so I was in conversation with this guy at that publisher. He was like low key weird. And I realized I shouldn't have named the publisher. I shouldn't have named the publisher, but it was like he said things that were a little like gave me red flags about how he talked about Anjuman. And so I was kind of like, but I was like, well, this is kind of the only way. He was like, we purposefully published this here so that there would be like a copyright and we could work with somebody to translate, whatever. And then the short version is eventually, I'm gonna make 2 plugs. ALTA, the American Literary Translators Association, is the best. I would have abandoned this project so many times without that community of people who are just like passionate, curious, like lifting each other up. Like you'll meet bigwigs and you would never know. There's no ego. It's just so beautiful. It's like everything you want in a community. And then the Authors Guild. So I went to ALTA at one point. I was like doing everything. I was trying to get pro bono legal representation for artists. I did like so much stuff to get that. And they were like, okay, we're going to do it. And I was like, here's my problem. And the guy was like, yeah, wow, good luck. And like I was talking to legal clinics at law schools. I was doing everything. And then I talked to somebody at ALTA and she was like, oh, you should join the Authors Guild because they have lawyers who will help authors. And I was like, oh. And that dude fixed it in like 2 weeks. And it had taken me like, I am not joking, probably I had been banging my head against the wall for like 7 years or something. And in the time that had elapsed, Afghanistan had signed the Berne Convention. And then I also finally got in touch with her brother, who published her first, like paid to have her books published. So we were able to basically be like, he should be the rights holder. He did not like the guy at that other publisher. So that I was like tainted by us. It was like this whole thing, but we finally, and he's just like her champion. It's really beautiful. So I got rights from him. And we did what I asked for was exclusive English translation rights for me and Marina, so that we would be able to have this come out. And then it just be like, I've been the connecting piece because people can find me and then I can just like WhatsApp him or email him. And like a Portuguese translation based on this actually came out because of that. Like somebody found out about her on my website, emailed me, and like I was able to connect them. That is like truly 15% of the journey, but it's like the salient points. It can be a lot with translation. Yeah. Yeah, tell me.
Maybe this is more just like reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Being a literary writer in this really strange context in front of me. And I really struggle leaning into like writing about Islam, or even like leaning into that part of my identity, and that coming into my art is really difficult for me.
Yeah.
I lean into other aspects of my identity, right?
Right.
My nationality, my ethnic heritage comes much easier than my like Muslim heritage. And even like when you were reading her works, like there's so much like spiritual,
Totally.
like things happening which it would be really inaccessible to Western audience. Like the scorpions, the bird knowledge, the cypress tree. Like, the last poem was so touching and beautiful.
Yeah.
What the clothing and silk means for a man in this world to be wearing that. Right? Like I understand that I feel like I have a completely different kind of access to her work.
Of course.
And maybe someone who doesn't have my background. But also like it's really tough being like a Muslim woman and writing within these contexts and like writing in English in the Western world. But I don't know, I was curious to hear maybe more of your thoughts on translating the word, right? And you touched on it a little bit, but it's really broad.
Well, I think I would expect, so the person asking the question was talking about the challenges of writing into Muslim faith and identity, and also how they're able to really connect with a lot of the Persian tropes, like these images that have existed for 1,000 years and have been used again and again and again. And also like the things that the Muslim concerns that that Anjuman is touching on in the poems. I mean, I would expect too, and it's like, there's this sense of expectation, I feel like, from white America that like, oh, well, obviously like this is the only thing you can write about. This thing that I am othering. Which is messed up. Like you should write about whatever you want. I've mentioned like doing a ton of research. The back of the book, I essentially made a notes section because this is one of the other things that's really difficult about translation, right? Like inevitably things are going to get lost. Like the things that you're mentioning, like the cypress trees, like these images that she's drawing upon this ancient lineage of literature. And so I put a notes section and also quote poems that give examples, like ancient poems. So like there was one that I feel like I read recently that was helpful. Okay, so this one, right? Because I mentioned the Layla in that poem, right? Layla, a semi-historical woman from a long 12th century Persian poem, Nizami of Ganja. Layla's lover, Quays, goes insane after she marries another man. Quays is then given the new name, Majnun, meaning demented or possessed. Majnun goes into the desert, speaking only to animals. A gazelle's black eyes remind him of his beloved, and birds make a nest of his hair. Where it's like, here's all the context if you want. I mean, not all, but like more. So, but it's like the like, do you put footnotes? Do you do how much do you include it in line? Like, it's such a process. And I think that I know that the translation would be very different if I were doing it now, but it's only because of all the experience of doing it. So I tried to make a book that I would want, where it's like, I want to know, like, for example, in that first poem, the In Vain, that the last torch the sisters sing, for the word howl, the word translated here as howl is pronounced fagan. Anjuman is pointing to the similarity between Afghan and fagan here. So like, even also trying to show her like brilliance and wordplay that just I couldn't make happen in the English. Because I think that that's also important to honor her, to show, I know I can't give a whole portrait, but to give more of a sense of her as an artist. Even if I'm like, Marina and I are failing in like really making it all on like in line in the poems.
I feel like this is maybe a nice time to offer some applause as a group, and then if there are people who want to purchase copies of Smoke Drifts or Agrippina the Younger, or talk a little bit more with Diana about some of the snacks that EK has so kindly brought to the table. This was our
So pumped for snacks.
But I really want to thank you so much for sharing your work, guys. To bring these very juicy questions.
Yeah, these questions are amazing. I'm so honored.
Really big.
Thank you guys.
April 9th is our next Writing Now. Ju Chin Ho's gonna be here.
Oh, cool.
I know.
That's so fun. She's great.
And then
Lucky
on April
you.
30th, Tisa Bryant, the one and only, is coming. So thanks again to NK, and thank you again, and
Thank you,
enjoy.
Gabrielle.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Should we bring the music back on?
Oh,
just
yes.
to make it happen?
I stupidly unplugged, but yeah.
No, that wasn't stupid.
No.
It was good to have a thing.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at your little Venmo.
I know, yeah.
Those poems, oh, she's so good.
I know.
Nadia, I like that Crazy Heart.
I know.
I love that.
I go back and forth on reading that one.
I mean,